Received a report about an unusual wolf or wolf-like creature from a fellow this past summer. He was hiking the Mount Baldy Trail here in Alberta when the encounter occurred. The behavior of the animal was also extremely unwolf-like. It was unresponsive and unafraid of things that a wild animal would be afraid of. Anyway, here's the report as I received it. I managed to get a few days off of work, so I decided to hit some of the trails to do some hiking and exploring. I chose the trails around Mount Baldy because I had been there many times before and knew them well. I was carrying a canteen of water, a small backpack containing a small first aid kit, a couple of well-wrapped packaged snack bars, a small emergency survival kit, my digital camera. I was also carrying a single shot shotgun, which I take with me on all my hikes, camping trips. I was about half of the way to the Mount Baldy base trailhead when I was surprised by a very large wolf that just walked out onto the trail and stood there blocking my way. At first I was concerned because this creature was quite a bit bigger than any timber wolf that I'd ever seen, captive or wild. But the creature seemed content to simply stand and stare at me. I spoke to it. It didn't show that it had even heard the sound. No raising of the ears. I yelled at it to get out of the way. It still did nothing. I began to feel uncomfortable, so I started to back away, but the creature then came towards me. So did it. I then took the shotgun off of my shoulder and fired it into the air. Once again, the creature did not seem to care. All it did was glance at the weapon, then right back to me again. This time I had the nagging feeling in my head that this was not an ordinary wolf. It just did not behave like a wild animal. So I reached back into my backpack and removed my digital camera. This was the only thing that seemed to cause it to waver in its behavior. For as I raised the camera to take a picture of it, it darted off into the woods. I took this moment to beat a retreat back down the trail towards a more open area. This next part may make you disbelieve the entire account, but I am going to say it regardless. When I look back up the trail, the creature was standing next to a large pine tree, but it was standing on its back legs. Suppose it could have been using the tree for support, but it didn't look like it. I raised the camera once more and it disappeared back into the woods. Now, what kind of wild animal is more afraid of a camera than of a gun? This is why I don't believe I was dealing with an ordinary wolf. I may even go so far as to say it fringed on the paranormal. Needless to say, I will not be hiking those trails ever again, armed or not. I know that you are a Sasquatch researcher, but I couldn't find anyone else in Alberta that would know anything about this or even take the time to read it without calling me a liar. I reported this large wolf to an officer as I left the area. I told him that I had spotted an extremely large timber wolf, easily the size of a Great Dane, on one of the trails. He replied that the wolves here don't get that big, that I must be mistaken. He probably thought I was a cook. Yeah, in this next report, a husband and wife were out cross-country skiing. They had just crossed a remote country road, were about to ski across a field. On the other side of this field, they spotted an extremely large wolf standing just inside of the tree line. The wife said she felt uncomfortable as the creature was staring right at them, following their movement. Her husband was carrying a .22 rifle on his back on a sling. He brought the rifle down, chambered a cartridge, and fired into the ground in front of the creature. She said that the creature looked at the ground, then back at them, and began to growl. She said that the growl went up and down in sound, and it was very deep, menacing. She said that her husband shouldered his rifle again, but did not fire. What really gave her the chills was the look on the creature's face. She felt that the creature knew that the rifle was small caliber, was not something that could kill it with one shot. Moments later, her husband fired again, this time into a tree that was next to the creature. The creature didn't even flinch, but what it did next made both of them flee in terror. About 30 seconds after the second shot, the creature stood up on two legs. One of its front legs was against the tree that her husband shot. The growling continued, but it had increased in volume by quite a bit. The creature was moving its jaws up and down, like it was gnashing its teeth. Her husband fired 3 shots directly at the creature, all 3 hitting it in the chest. Freesure let out a drawn-out howl and ran off into the forest on 2 legs. They fled the other way back towards their vehicle. As they were skiing back, they had to pass through a small area of forest. As they were passing through the forest, they could hear something running towards them from a distance through the woods. They cleared the woods without anything happening, but when they broke out of the forest, they estimated that whatever was chasing them was no more than 35 or 40 yards behind them. She had her cell phone with her, was thinking about using it to take a picture of the creature. As she was thinking this, she suddenly got a feeling that if she took a photograph, the creature would kill both of them. I came across another report of a bipedal canine. I was at a show here in Alberta. I'd been talking about Sasquatch with a group of people. After the discussion was over, a young woman approached me and said that her father had seen a werewolf on their farm in the mid-1990s. She said that he was there at the show. She wondered if I would talk with him. I was more than happy to, as reports of bipedal canines are few and far between in Alberta. I was introduced to the father, who was less than happy that his daughter had told a stranger about his sighting of creature that isn't supposed to exist. But after I told him who I was and what I did, he seemed relieved that I wasn't going to make fun of him. We went outside and sat at a picnic table, and he related the occurrence to me. The witness resides on a sizable piece of land near Deadwood, Alberta. He raises and breeds horses for a living. One night in early August of 1996, the witness was awoken by the sounds of panicked horses. He said that they sounded as if they were being or were going to be attacked by something. He grabbed a spotlight, a 20 gauge shotgun, and headed out towards the sounds. It should also be noted that the dog refused to leave the house with him. This was very unusual, as the dog is trained for running off animals that may attempt to harm the horses. As he approached a corral where several Shetland ponies were being kept, he spotted movement. He clicked on his spotlight and played the beam over the area. When the beam passed over a corner section of the corral, he spotted what he thought was a large timber wolf. This surprised him, as he had never had problems with wolves before. Still, this wolf was making itself a problem, so he shouted, "Hey, get the hell out of here." What happened next shocked and stunned him. The wolf spun towards him and stood up on its hind legs. He estimated that the creature's height was between 6 and 7 feet. The color was jet black, and the eye sheen was said to be greenish yellow. He immediately pointed the shotgun at it and pulled back both hammers. When he did this, the creature began to emit a sound that the witness described as a steady and somewhat guttural growling. The creature started to go into a crouch. The witness took this to mean that the creature was going to lunge at him, so he fired the shotgun in its direction. Your creature dropped onto all fours and bolted faster than he thought possible for an animal to move into the forest. After the creature moved out of view, the witness began to get a very uncomfortable feeling like he was being watched. What he described as an unreasonable fear came over him, and he fled towards his home as fast as he could move. He considered calling the police, but soon canceled that thought. What would he tell them? That he had just fired at a werewolf? No, he kept this to himself, only telling his daughter when she was in her late teens. I asked the witness if he thought he hit the creature with the shotgun blast. He believes that he did, but the damage would have been minimal as he was using number 7 birdshot. The worst that may have happened was that the pellets caused it stinging pain. The duration of the sighting was estimated to be between 45 seconds and 1 minute. The distance from the witness to the creature was estimated to be between 40 to 50 yards. The witness seriously thought that this creature was a werewolf, as he had nothing else to compare it to. He said that he lived in worry for a number of years afterwards, wondering if it was going to pay him another visit. His biggest worry was that it may harm his wife or daughter. The creature was never sighted again by the witness, and no other similar reports have surfaced. I asked the witness if he thought this could have been a person in a costume. He gave a resounding no to that question. He said it just looked too natural, and that the speed it moved with was something that a person in a suit could never accomplish. He also said that no one in the area would be foolish enough to pull a stunt like that, because the end result would most likely be them getting shot. He is a 60-year-old male employee at a water treatment facility on the east side of Cincinnati, was making a nightly round to drive to a particular tank and open a valve. Driving down a rural road dotted with houses, he sees on his right something standing in front of a garage, lit by a bright overhead light. He put his truck in reverse and backed up to get a better look. Stopping at the foot of the driveway, the creature was standing about where the SUV is parked on the right. Image on the right shows the light pole directly across from the basketball hoop. Short dies. I was told there is another light that brightly illuminates up near the garage door, but I could not see it from my vantage point. The driveway is about 50 feet long. These images were shot from inside a car, just like the witness would have seen. Blotted out the house and license plate numbers for privacy of the residents who are not interviewed. I wonder if they have any idea what lurks around their house at night. The witness describes a bizarre creature he estimates to be about the size of a man. Is covered in brown leather skin, but had regular animal hair on the head, neck, and chest. He describes a canine head with a long muzzle and pointed ears on top. He reports that the legs were dog-like, but the arms appeared man-like. Interestingly, the creature stood in an unusual pose, likening it to this type of yoga position called intense side stretch. The witness said that instead of forming a V shape, the creature's legs formed more of a horseshoe shape. If they were canine-type legs, one can easily see where this would make sense. Right? Creature's arms hung down in front, but I don't know if it was touching the ground or its own foot or what. Airily, the creature did not move, but eyed the witness with just one eye, keeping its head in profile. The witness reports a sort of sneer on the creature's face, as if to say, "You see me, don't you?" He said the overall feeling about this creature was that it was bad news. He and the creature stared at each other for about a minute, with the creature remaining in place, just looking at him. And the witness drove off to attend to his duty up the road. When he returned about 8 minutes later, the creature was gone. I was taken to the water tank. Employees must attend every morning at 4. As the crow flies, this tank is only about 100 yards from where the sighting took place. This is where the witness was headed at the time of the sighting. The employee comes out here alone each morning at 4, drives up to the locked gate and opens it, then walks into the enclosure and opens a valve on this tank. On the right side of the driveway is a dense hedge of trees and honeysuckle. On the other side of that hedge is a small field with outbuilding and parking lot. Then the road, and on the opposite side of it, the house where the sighting took place. On the right-hand side of the towers, mostly farmland. One is pretty alone in the dark at this tank. And my friend noted that going into the tank isn't bad, but coming back, your headlights are in your face and it's hard to see. For some time now, prior to the sighting, the witness has been expressing his uneasiness coming to this particular location. He said he always feels like something is watching him. I have been assured that this witness is anything but a coward and is actually a bit of a badass type, but he has long been uncomfortable coming here in the dark.